with me today, of course, is Richard. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Ian. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm looking forward to this one. We just spoke off air. I think this one is going to be totally different.
I think so as well.
Yeah.
Especially my number 10. You will put your head in your hands for this one.
Well, that's what I like about it. It's just great fun. So, usual thing, Richard will go first, then me, and then we'll go through the bubbling unders. I've got a huge list here today, so I've made a huge list because I've got it on old-fashioned bits of paper.
Me too.
Yeah. So, do you want to start then, Richard?
Okay. Now, I was talking to you in the live stream saying there was about 3 albums that were fighting out for number 10. And last night I took a look at all the number 1s and I had missed one. So those 3 albums are now all in the bubbling unders. And my number 10, believe it or not, from 1980 for 2 weeks at number 1 is Guilty by Barbra Streisand. Now, this is effectively a Bee Gees album because it's all written by Barry and Robin Gibb. Side 1 of this is absolutely brilliant with the title track, which is a duet with Barry Gibb. The number 1 hit, Woman in Love, and you have to admit her voice is fantastic in it. Run Wild is another one. It's actually the B-side of Woman in Love, and it's every bit as good. But if you hear a song called The Love Inside, it is absolutely beautiful. Now, side 2 is not quite as good, but there's still a couple of good songs on it, like What Kind of Fool and Never Give Up. But excellent album. And it's the only Barbra Streisand album I like. I didn't like the follow-up Guilty 2 or Guilty Pleasures or whatever it was called with Barry. This is the only one I like, and it really does show what a fantastic singer she is. Great songs, great singer.
Yeah, I actually like Woman in Love. I think it's a great song. And she had a good voice. It's just the choice of the style that she did that sort of...
Exactly why I never followed her. It's just this album. I absolutely...
She seemed to go off kilter all the time. So, yeah. Okay, my number 10 comes from 1985. It was 1 week at number 1, and it is Born in the USA, Bruce Springsteen.
Ooh.
And it's not for Dancing in the Dark. I like some of the more storytelling songs that he does. I love Bruce when he does his storytellers. I love My Hometown, I'm on Fire. I love Darlington County. It's a very upbeat sort of old style Bruce, because although this is done in the 80s, there are some songs on there that I don't like, but majority are really good. I love Born in the USA. And I love how he does it now acoustic. It is a fantastic track. And I must admit, when I brought this, I played it to death.
Yeah.
But now I sort of go, ooh, you know. But yeah, it's just, you know, what I was 19, really into music. So yeah, that's why it's my number 10.
Oh, I think it's a great album as well. I just missed out on my bubbling unders due to it being overplayed for me. However, I think it got to number 1 for longer than 1 week. I think it was number 1 on 2 separate occasions, and one of them was about 4 or 5 weeks. So I think it did better than you think. My number 9 is from 1989, and this only got to number 1 for 1 week. And it's The Raw and the Cooked by the Fine Young Cannibals. Now, if you actually listen to this album, it is so full of 80s production, which is... you would think it was off-putting, but it works so well. It's got 5 fantastic singles off it. She Drives Me Crazy, which I love. Good Thing, that sort of 60s type sound, which worked really well on the Fever Pitch soundtrack. I'm Not the Man I Used to Be, which I absolutely adore as well. Don't Look Back was great fun. I love their version of the Buzzcocks' Ever Fallen in Love. But it's not just those 5 singles. The 5 LP tracks are really good as well, especially Tell Me What, which is a brilliant song. And As Hard as It Is, those are the 2 highlights of the LP tracks. Absolutely fantastic album. I love Roland Gift's voice. She drives me crazy.
Yeah, it's a unique voice.
It is, and I think it's a fantastic album. I know part of the band were originally in The Beat, I don't know too much about them, but I know that there is a beat connection there. And obviously Rolling Gift wasn't in the beat, but fantastic album. They only had 2 albums, and both of them are actually very good, but this is the only one that got to number 1, and that's my number 9.
Okay, I'm not going to say too much on that album because in March it is on. It's one of the classic albums, so there's a spoiler for you.
There you go.
It'll be in the classic albums from March, so I'm not going to say too much, but I do like the songs on there. Well, the only thing I will say, there's some bands that the 80s production worked on, and it worked on that. I think it's because they knew what they were doing.
Yep, exactly.
That's what it is. If you just go with that soft sound and you normally do raunchy, it doesn't work. But they sat down and thought. I think there was a lot of thought went into the production on that, and it's a great choice. Okay, my number 9 is from one of my favourite guitarists and his band Dire Straits. This is from 1982, and it's the fantastic Love Over Gold, which is my number 1 album by Dire Straits. Okay, it's got some great songs on it. Love Over Gold, I love that. Private Investigation is just a stunning track. But for me, the track that really does it for me is Telegraph Road. I love that. I love how it starts slow and then it just builds up, and that guitar work at the end of it is even better than Sultans of Swing, in my opinion. I prefer this way over Brothers in Arms because I think that was the 2 sort of choices I had, but this always was going to beat Brothers in Arms. It's just a good, solid rock album from Dire Straits.
Yeah, I love it too. It was one of my 5 bubbling unders, so I've now got 4 bubbling unders. So yeah, I like it as well. The highlight for me is Private Investigations. I think it's magnificent. I love the piano and then the crunching sound, about 3/4 of the way through. Telegraph Road is brilliant. I think it's a little bit too long. A few minutes could have been chopped off that. My favourite Dire Straits album is actually Making Movies. Second is Love Over Gold, but it's a fantastic album and deserves to be in your top 10.
Yeah, I mean, the live version of Private Investigations of the Alchemy album is the best version. It's just awesome.
Yeah. Well, my number 8 is from my favourite band of the 80s. And they released 4 albums, and this is actually my 3rd favourite album, so it just shows how much I love the other 2 of the other ones. And it's by the Smiths, and it's Meat is Murder from 1985, and it stayed there for 1 week. It's their only number 1 album. Why this is not higher is that there's one song I don't like, and that's Meat is Murder, because I don't believe that meat is murder. I'm a carnivore.
Yeah, same here.
So I can't really listen to that, but thankfully it's the last song on the album, so I usually skip it. The rest of the album is brilliant. It starts off with the Headmaster Ritual, fantastic, and then it goes into Russian Ruffians, it's got that Marie's the Name of His Latest Flame riff. And they actually acknowledged that whenever they played the song live, because they opened it up with Marie's the Name of His Latest Flame and then moved into Russian Ruffians. But the only single off it was a track called That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore. And it's a brilliant song, but it's a poor choice of single. I think the single should either have been Nowhere Fast or an edited version of Barbarism Begins at Home, which is one of the funkiest tracks you'll ever hear, and it is brilliant. And then you have the beautiful acoustic of Well I Wonder. It's a great album, produced by the Smiths themselves, but it gets my number 8.
Yeah, great album. I've got an album ranking of the Smiths coming up in the next couple of months. Yeah, it's I agree with you. The single was not the best choice. But I mean, I totally agree with what you said. They should have done an edited version.
Yep.
Great choice. Okay, then my number 8. Again, one of my favourite artists. Good news is he's got a new album coming out this year, and it's from 1986. I didn't even put how long it was at number 1, but it's Peter Gabriel's So.
Okay.
Absolute great album. Obviously, it's got Sledgehammer, and it is one of the tracks. It is overplayed, but I still love it. But that's not the best track on that album for me. The best track on that album is, of course, with Kate.
Don't Give Up.
Beautiful song. Red Brain's good as well. It was just one of them albums that I played, and it was at the time that Invisible Touch came out as well. So you had the Genesis Contact, but for me, this is the better album of the two. I love this album.
I do like it. I like In Your Eyes as well. It's another very good song. There's quite a few albums in the 80s, and it just didn't make my list. So it didn't. But it's a decent. It is probably. I think his third album's his best, and it didn't make my list either.
Yeah. So I dibbled with that one, but this has had a lot more meaning in 1986 for me.
Yeah. Big year for Genesis in 86 with that and Invisible Touch.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 7 in 1980 for 4 weeks, and it is The Police Zenyatta Mondatta. I mentioned it last week, saying it was my second favourite Police album. It is. I love it. 2 great singles, Don't Stand So Close to Me and Da Do 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 Da 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 Da. But that's not all. There's some really, really excellent tracks like Behind My Camel, which is an instrumental, which I've always loved. Canary in a Coal Mine, which is really, really catchy. And then there's When the World Is Running Down, You Make the Best of What's Still Around. Rob Walker loves that song, and I don't blame him. It is brilliant. Driven to Tears is another great song, and I remember seeing Robert Downey Jr. actually perform that with Sting on stage, which was fantastic. And then there was one which I think was going to be the third single called Voices Inside My Head. It's almost like an instrumental with very few words, and it is fantastic, and there's video for it as well. So number 7, Zenyatta Mondatta, 4 weeks in 1980.
Yeah, that's one of mine off my Bubbling Undergun. But yeah, I mean, Driven to Tears is a great track, and I loved when he did it at Live Aid just on the guitar. That proved what a great song that is. Just very simply sung, great chords, wonderful track. It's a great album. I love listening to that album.
Yeah.
My number 7 is from a band that this was probably their last great album. From 1987, 2 weeks at number 1, and it's U2's The Joshua Tree.
Okay. Absolute
brilliant album. Opens up with that lovely intro of Where the Streets Have No Name. I love that. Other ones on there I really like. Bite the Bullet Sky. I just love the Edge's guitar work on that. And one of my other favourites is One Tree Hill. Some of the other single, have I still bit hand clappy? No, not for me. And With or Without You's okay. It just goes on a bit.
Yep.
But for me, Bite the Bullet is it's one of their best tracks ever. Again, another album that I played quite a lot in the 80s. That's why it is my number 7.
Yeah, good album. I don't have it. I may have a U2 one bubbling under mine, but I don't have that. Did you know that it was actually Kirsty MacColl that set the track listing, the order of the track listing for the Joshua Tree?
No, I didn't.
It was her, because she was married to Steve Lillywhite at the time. And what she said is all she did was take her favourite songs at the start and just keep on going to her least favourite song. So that is how the track listing was made.
I can understand why she had Where the Streets Have No Name opening the album.
Okay, my number 6 is from 1982 and the 2 weeks at number 1. And it's Paul McCartney's Tug of War. Now, I'm going to admit there's a couple of songs I'm not as keen on in this. I've never been that keen on the ballad Here Today for John Lennon. And What's That You're Doing just sounds too much like Stevie Wonder. But what this album does have is a couple of his best ever songs, and I'm including the Beatles in this. The title track is superb. The song Wanderlust is absolutely brilliant. Then you get The Pound is Sinking, which is a couple of songs sort of stuck together, which is fantastic as well. Ballroom Dancing is another one, which is really, really catchy, would have made a fantastic single. The single itself, Take It Away, great stuff. Even Ebony and Ivory, it's okay. It's a bit sickly sweet, but it's not bad. And then you get a nice wee rockabilly number, Get It with Carl Perkins. And there's one track which I used to not like, but I really do like now, and it's Dress Me Up as a Robber, which sounded as if it could have come from McCartney too, but it's a really wonderful, wonderful album. As I say, number one for 2 weeks in 1982.
Yeah, great album. I think I ranked that quite high on my ranking, Tug of War. Again, it's got some great songs on it. Ones you mentioned are just, perfect. Great, great album. Right, my number 6, I've actually gone for a live album.
Oh, right, okay.
It came out in 1987, got to number 1, and it's a band that we've actually done a top 10 singles on.
Simple Minds.
Simple Minds, yes. Well done, sir. Live in the City of Lights. Probably one of my favourite live albums from the 80s. I think it's got the definitive versions of their hits on there. It's just fantastic. Waterfront just blows your head away. Sanctify Yourself is probably the best version on there. Love Song is terrific live. Don't You Forget About Me, the crowd taking part. But my favourite track on here is Ghost Dancing.
Oh, I love that song. It's a great song.
It's a great song, but it's even better live. I mean, I did see them a few years later on the real life tour, and they were just a fantastic live band. I don't think they're really the same now, but I'm glad I saw them when they were still so brilliant. Great album. I love playing that live album.
Well, good choice. I wasn't expecting a live album, but there you go. I didn't even know it got to number 1, to be honest with you. But
no, I didn't. But when I went, oh, hello, we'll have that.
But very good. Well, my number 5 got to number 1 for 8 weeks in 2 separate periods. Once in 1986 and then again in 1987. And it's Paul Simon's Graceland. Now, this is an album I played to death. I really did. I've taped it on one side of a C90. The other side was actually The Smiths' The Queen Is Dead. And I kept playing that tape over and over again. It's a brilliant album. Now, some people think it's very top heavy, with the first side being better than side 2. And I sort of tend to agree with that. But yeah, The Boy in the Bubble is one of his best ever. I love Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes. I Think You Can Call Me Al is great fun. Under African Skies, beautiful track. Homeless with Ladysmith, Black Mombasa, I think that's what you call them. Absolutely fantastic. And even the title track, Graceland. Yes, it's all very similar. It's all very African, but it's such a refreshing album, especially after the disappointment of Hearts and Bones, his 1983 album, which I thought was actually very good, but it flopped in the charts. This one just made him a star again. And it's my number 5, Paul Simon's Graceland.
Yeah, that was in my bubbling unders as well. It is a great album. I love the video to Call Me Out with Chevy Chase, because they look so much like each other, and they looked like they was having so much fun. But you're right, his previous album sort of goes easy on the wobble, but he came back strong, which we knew he would. And it is a terrific album, and I play it quite a lot. It's what I call my Sunday morning album, one of my Sunday morning albums. But yeah, great choice. Right, my number 5. We've all mentioned the person that was in the band, Peter Gabriel, so we'd better mention the band he was in, Genesis. This comes from 1980, 2 weeks at number 1, and it's The Brilliant Duke. Probably the last proggy album that Genesis did. What can you say about this album? It's got great tracks on it. Behind the Lines, absolutely killer. killer track. Duchess. I love that. I love the arrangement, how they get the drum machine and the drums working together. But for me, it's just all about Duke's Ends and Duke's Travel. Proper prog, and that was their sort of last bit of prog. I mean, produced well. I mean, there's Hugh Pagman produced this one. It's got some great drumming from Phil, some of his best. It's just a terrific album, a great cover, iconic Genesis cover. That's why it's my number 5.
Yeah, excellent choice. I enjoy that as well, especially like Dodo. I think Dodo's a great song. And
Don't
obviously,
on Abacab.
oh, what am I thinking of? Duchess. Sorry, Duchess.
Yeah.
The one, yeah, and I also love Turn It On Again. I also like the Avocab LP too, being Sarah Jane, another great song.
Yeah. I like Turn It On Again. It's classic, but overplayed.
Yeah. Okay, well, my number 4 is from 1981, 2 weeks at number 1, and it is ELO and Time. My Time is my second favorite ELO album behind Out of the Blue. And this has got one of the best openers ever with Prologue going into Twilight. Absolutely magnificent. And then going into Yours Truly, 2095, which is fantastic. The singles, Hold On Tight. Yeah, it's rock and roll, but it's one of their best rock and roll type songs. I love Ticket to the Moon. Beautiful song. And it's a double A side, Here's the News, which is, it's very synth heavy, but it's really, really good. But my all-time favorite song off this album is The Way Life's Meant to Be. Very acoustic, beautiful backing vocals, catchy as hell. And it was one of the singles that failed to make the top 75. And it's in my top 3 of all ELO singles. Absolutely great. And Rain is Falling, beautiful ballad. The Lights Go Down, great song. Not a bad song off this, and that's why it's my number 4. Time, ELO from 1981.
Yeah, in my bubbling under, so that one's gone. But yeah, it is a great album. Ticket to the Moon is beautiful.
Yeah, gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
One of his best, well, I think one of the best sort of ballady songs he ever wrote, and that includes all the stuff he's done. It's just wonderful. But Hold On Tight, it's typical Jeff Lynne. Catchy rock and roll. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Great choice. All right, yeah. So my number 4 is from one of my favourite female singers. She's already had a mention today because she sang with Peter Gabriel. And it is from 1985, 2 weeks, and it is Hounds of Love, Kate Bush.
I like that, but I couldn't get it in. Couldn't get it in the top 10.
Oh, Hounds of Love. Great track. Running Up That Hill is just...
Yeah. Well, it's been a number 1 hit last year. Yeah.
You know, the kids seem to love it, and anything that Kate's on, yeah, thumbs up for me. But for me, it's the epic Cal bursting that's just amazing, with an amazing video to go with it. I can see it's one of them tracks I can put on and just keep flicking back. I just love that track. Her vocals in that are just superb. An album that I had to go and buy again because I wore it out. My vinyl version it's like frying bacon on it now. I don't play it because it's just ruined. And it was an original pressing, so it doesn't get played anymore. That's how much I played it.
Do you know that the reissue of that on vinyl does not have the original Big Sky on it? It's got the single version on it instead of the original.
That's sacrilege, isn't it?
But no, great choice. Well, my number 3 is from 1981, and obviously I have to include this group. I do with every list. Got to number 1 for 3 weeks, and it's The Visitors by ABBA. Now, this was the album that spawned the single One of Us, which was a top 3 hit, but their second single just managed to scrape the top 30 head over heels, which is a shame because it's absolutely brilliant. The whole album is a little bit darker than usual. The Visitors, such a fantastic track. And it's digitally recorded as well, because you just know there's actually a little flaw in the track The Visitors. If you listen to it, it's about 4 minutes in. You can hear a little flaw. But tracks like Soldiers, brilliant song. I Let the Music Speak shows where Benny and Bjorn were going with the musicals. The two finishing tracks, Slipping Through My Fingers, is heartbreakingly gorgeous. And Like an Angel Passing Through My Room is so eerie, really eerie, with the clock ticking, but it's really, really beautiful. And one other one, When All Is Said and Done, was actually a half-decent hit in America. Fantastic album, and it's my second favourite ABBA album behind Arrival, so it gets my number 3.
Yeah, that is one of the ABBA albums that it's a bit of a mixed, what I call my mixed bag. It's got some good tracks and some tracks I'm not keen on, but it's an album that you can put on. I mean, it's not one I don't say, oh, I won't listen to it. Oh, I'll put that on. And yeah, it's a nice listen. It's a nice thing when you're doing something in the background. It's a decent album, but not one of my favourites, but a good choice. Now, I think this is where we will start to change.
Okay.
This is where my influence and my heavy stuff really came in, and this is what I was listening to at the time. So my number 3 is from 1988. We got to number 1 for 1 week, and it's Iron Maiden's Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. It is my favourite Iron Maiden album. A lot of fans go, oh, it's got synths on it, guitar synths. But when you've got Adrian Smith and Dave Murray playing them, it doesn't matter. Seventh Son of a Seventh Son is an absolute epic. It's got Can I Play With Madness, the video that Graham Chapman, his last video in it, which is a lot of fun. Moonchild, the opener, is brilliant. That start is brilliant. Beautifully produced by Martin Birch. And that's why it is my number 3.
I don't know anything about it, so I can't comment. Never heard it. I've never heard any Iron Maiden albums. Well, my number 2 is 2 weeks at number 1 in 1980, and it's David Bowie's Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. And 4 hit singles off this: Ashes to Ashes, Fashion, the title track, and Up the Hill Backwards, and they're all inside one. And the opener, It's No Game, number 1, is fantastic, and it should have been a single in its own right. But even side 2, you get his vocal performance on Teenage Wildlife, which is brilliant. I do love the cover of Kingdom Come, the Tom Verlaine song. And then Because You're Young is a great track as well, with Pete Townsend on guitar. And then it finishes with It's No Game, part 2, as if he's exhausted. He's screaming at the start, and this one is so laid back. Brilliant, brilliant album. And many think it is his last album, or his last best album, or his last really, really good album. But yeah, fantastic album, and that's my number 2.
Yeah, that was in my bubbling unders. It's a good job I made a big list. It is a great album. I was actually listening to it the other day, and then I put on Let's Dance. And everyone said, oh, everyone goes for Let's Dance, but no, Scary Monsters is the better of the two, I'm afraid. You got the 3 great singles on Let's Dance, and then the other tracks are just okay.
I like them, but Scary Monsters gets it.
Yeah, gets it for me. Yeah, great choice. All right, my number 2, again, is a bit of a heavy one, and this is the album that we was all sort of anticipating, because the lead singer of the band, Bon, had died with Highway to Hell. So they got Brian Johnson in, and this is from 1980. It got to number 1 for 2 weeks, and it's the fantastic Black in Black by AC/DC. An album that I just played and played and played. I had this on tape, and I had to, in the end, before it started wobbling, someone put it, you had a tape to tape, so he put it on another tape for me before I ruined it. Back in Black's brilliant. Shoot the Thrill. Hell's Bells. What a way to start an album. Ringing out the old and bringing in the new. You shook me all night long. don't care if I never hear it again. But brilliant, Bruce. One of the best albums Mutt Lange ever produced. Just an iconic album, and it's a bit sad that their best-selling album was the first one with Brian and sort of on. But I love that album.
Yeah, I'm very keen on it as well. I do prefer side 2 of it to side 1, but I do like Hell's Bells in side 1. But I do still love You Shook Me All Night Long and Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution. So, yeah, great choice. Well, my number 1 is from 1981, and it's spent 12 weeks at number 1 in 2 different periods. And it's Adam and the Ants, Kings of the Wild Frontier.
Okay, that's another one off my list.
3 fantastic singles in Dog Eat Dog, Ant Music, and the title track. But Los Rancheros is absolutely brilliant. It should have been a single. Making History is another one that could have maybe been a single. In fact, every track, I think, was single material. It was so different. I loved the Burundi drums, and it was great to see Adam get so much success, especially after the kick in the teeth from Malcolm McLaren by stealing his old band and forming Bow Wow Wow. He got a new band together, and Marco Peroni was a stroke of genius because his music is fantastic. Brilliant, brilliant album, and that's my number 1.
Yeah, I love that album. I've got it. It's well battered now, but it is my favourite. Adam and the Ants, just iconic. Everyone loved Adam and the Ants. I can't think of anyone of any age when you mention Adam and the Ants. Oh, what a great band! I mean, it's got Jolly Roger on that as well, which is quite a fun.
I like it.
Yeah, it's a fun track. But Ant Music and Kings of the Wild Frontier are brilliant. Great choice. My number 1 is probably the album that really set my 80s. And one of my second favourite band, Marillion. It's not my favourite album by the band because that didn't get the number 1. But this is from 1985, One Week, and it's the brilliant Misplaced Childhood. Forget Kaylee, forget Lavender. They're okay, but I don't want to hear them. But for me, it's songs like Bittersweet and Blind Curve are just pure genius. They're the tracks that no one remembers, the part-time, it's all about Kaylee. Nice song, nice lyrics, but I don't want to hear that. And the brilliant Childhood's End, which they never play the full version live because they miss out a verse when they do the live version. There's an extra verse that never gets done live. Just the summer of 85, this was the album for all of us. It was this and Foxtrot. That was what we was listening to, our little group. It's just a brilliant album, but it wasn't their best because Clutching at Straws is their best album.
Okay. I only know Kaylee and Lavender from it. But nice choice. Now, do you want to quickly run through the
Bubbling Unders? Yeah, you go first this week.
We've only got 3.5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Okay, right. War, U2, 1983 for 1 week. Really like it. I don't like U2, but I do like the early U2, and I like that album. The Jam, The Gift from 1982. It's my least favourite Jam album, but there's still some cracking songs on it, like Town Called Malice, Rolling on the Spot, Planner's Dream Goes Wrong. My third and final one is a number 1 for 4 weeks between 1981 and 82. That's the Human League Dare, with 4 brilliant singles: Open Your Heart, Don't You Want Me, Sound of the Crowd, Love Action, but other great songs like the Things That Dreams Are Made Of, I Am the Law, Do or Die, Darkness. Really, really good tracks and fantastic albums. So those are my 3 bubbling unders.
Yeah, mine 3 bubbling unders. My first one's from 1980, 2 weeks at number 1, and it is Sky 2.
All right, okay.
Love that album. Remember when this came out, a friend's dad had it, and me and one of my friends, we used to go and sit in their posh lounge and listen to it on the big stereo. So that's a great song. My next one is from 1987. Last week it was my all-time favourite from the 70s, but they only made a bubbling under. It's 1987, 2 weeks, Tango in the Night, Fleetwood Mac.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Excellent tracks on there. Seven Wonders, Little Lies.
Yeah.
Wonderful tracks. And my last one is from 1989, 3 weeks at number one, and it's Chris Rea's Road to Hell.
All right. Good choice. I love the title track, the parts 1 and 2. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's just an album that you just put on and let it go. You don't just pick your favourites. Every track on there is just top to bottom good stuff. I'm not going to go too much into it because obviously I'm going to be doing a ranking on Chris Rea at some stage. So, but that is my bubbling unders.
Excellent. Well, I'm telling you, we're doing this to a T, Ian, because we're down to nearly just 1 minute left.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks again, Richard, once again for doing this. I'll be back in a minute because we're talking about something else totally different to this. But that's all for today, folks. Thanks for watching on a Saturday. I'll be back on Monday, and we've got Mahogany Rush, great band from Canada, and I'm going to be Classic Album. We're going to be doing Mike Oldfield's box set, the first box set that he done, because we can talk about collaborations. So that's also, it's goodbye for me, and it's
goodbye from him. Goodbye.
Okay. Bye for now.